Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn a ORM, which is Sequelize ORM. Okay guys, before getting into the ORM, I want you guys to be already familiar with any of the SQL database, whether it is Postgres or MySQL. It really doesn't matter, but I want you guys to be very familiar with or have some basic understanding about a SQL database, because whatever we have to do in a SQL database, we have to write what? We have to write queries. But when we are creating an application using Node.js, there we have to write two things. One is plain JavaScript to write the logics, and SQL queries to deal with database. So think about it. Instead of writing queries, how wonder it will be if we write JavaScript objects. So that's why we are going to use Sequelize. Okay. Sequelize is a ORM. Basically, a ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper. What is the use of a ORM? That's what I previously said, right? Instead of writing queries, we are going to write plain JavaScript with the help of Sequelize ORM, not Sequelize ORM, by using any ORM. But in this video, we are going to learn Sequelize ORM. That's it. To be very simple, instead of writing queries, we are writing JavaScript objects to do the same stuff which a query can do. That's it guys. Nothing more than this. This is a brief introduction about what this video is going to be. I want you guys to download MySQL database because I am going to use MySQL database in this video. You can use Postgres also, it really doesn't matter, but in this video I'm going to use MySQL database. If you want to follow along with me, make sure you have MySQL database in your computer. If you don't have in your computer, just come to mysql.com official documentation. There you will get an option of downloads. Just click on the downloads, just get below. There you will have a link which is MySQL community download. I want you to click on that link. Apologies. There you will find MySQL community server and MySQL Workbench. I want you guys to download both. First of all, make sure if you don't have MySQL community server in your computer, you can't able to work with MySQL. So please make sure to install this. After that, you can install a Workbench, which is MySQL Workbench, which will look like not this, like this. This is the actual Workbench of a MySQL database. Okay, this is Postman tool which we are going to use in this video, because I am going to create APIs to save our data. In this video we are going to build a small Node.js backend application guys, and we are going to connect that application with MySQL database. We are going to do 4 operations. One is getting the data, creating the data, updating the data, and destroying the data. That's it, nothing more than that. This video is going to be super simple. Let's get into the video. Before getting into the SQLized database, let's first database user. After that, let's create a database. Okay, for creating database user, which is actually MySQL database user, we have to log in into MySQL community server. For login into community server of MySQL, open your terminal or command prompt. Here I'm going to log in as a sudo user. Just let me show you. Sudo MySQL. It will ask me for the sudo password. Okay, let me give it. Okay, it says wrong. Let me give you once again. Okay, here you can see guys, I have logged in to the MySQL database as the sudo user. Now let me show you how many users are there in this particular machine. For getting all the users of the MySQL database, you have to write query. Whatever you wanna do in SQL database, you have to write queries guys, whether it is a simple fetching data or complex doing logic, whether it really doesn't matter, you have to write queries. But don't worry, we are not going to deal much more with queries because we are going to learn ORM. Okay, let's first get all the users in this computer. For that you have to say select user comma host from this machine, which is MySQL dot user. Let's say enter. Here you can see guys, these are the default one which is dbnsys and MySQL info schema, and this two one which is root and Sahul. Sahul is just created by me, the user is created by me. Now let me show you how to create your own user, because I'm going to create a new user, and I'm going to create a new database with that user. Okay guys, let me first show you how to create a user in MySQL by writing your query. It is also damn simple guys. You have to say create. Writing queries is not that much complicated thing guys. It is also like a simple thing. Just if you have some basic understanding about English, you can write queries. Not that much advanced level, but you can understand the basic level of queries. Okay, let's first create a user. Create user. Let me name it as Hamid, which is my second name, at localhost. Okay, and we have to set a password, right, for this particular user. For that we have to say identified by. Here we have to set a strong password. Let me say H in the form of caps, and my name goes under at rate symbol and number. Okay, let's say hit enter, it will create the user. Okay, till now we have created a user, because we have get the okay query, it means we successfully created a user. Now we have to grant permission to this particular user. Now let me show you how to grant permission to this particular user. For that we have to write a query, grant all privileges on. We have to do like this to give all the permission. If you don't do this, if you don't write this query, you can't create database, you can't able to do anything with this user. So please make sure to give all the permission for this user. Okay, after that we have to say to. Now we have to mention the user, which user is. Okay, we have to say at localhost. Okay, I think so it is done. Let's say it enter. Here you can see we are getting the okay query. It means we successfully granted all the permission to this particular user called Hamid. Now just run this simple query, flush privileges, I think so. Okay, we get the success query. Now let me quit out from the MySQL database, because I have logged in as the sudo user. Now let me quit. Okay, now let's log into the same MySQL database, but this time not as the sudo user, as the this user, this particular Hamid user. For that you have to say MySQL. After that you have to specify the U, which actually stands for user, I think so. After that you have to give the name. Okay, after that you will have to say like P, which is basically password. It will ask password. Now just say hit enter. Hit enter. Here you can see it as the password. You have to give the password which you gave here, right? Just copy this. Okay, just paste it over here. Okay, here you can see we have logged in to MySQL, but this time as Hamid user. Now let's create our database. Okay, for creating database it's also damn simple. Just say create database. Let me name the database as Hamid database. You can name your database whatever you wish, but it really doesn't matter whatever you give. Just I want to show you how to make a database with a query. Okay, let's say hit enter, it will create a database for me with this particular name called Hamid DB. Now let's check whether our DB created or not. For that let's log every single database in this machine. For getting the every single database you have to write a simple query, which is show database. Okay, here you can see we have many databases, blogs, testdb, tytdb. Here you can see this is the database which we created just now. Okay, we successfully created a database. That's it guys, we can quit out from this. Now let's get into MySQL Workbench. Let me close this terminal. Okay, let's get into MySQL. This is the home page of MySQL, guys. MySQL Workbench. This is how it looks. Just click on MySQL collection, which is the plus icon over there, right? Just click on it. It will give you a box. Just give a connection name. You can give the connection name whatever you wish. It really doesn't matter. Here I'm giving YT tutorial. Okay, it will ask for the username. In our case, I'm going to log in as Hamid user. It will ask me for the password. Let me give the correct password which I gave over there. Okay, say okay. Just click on the test connection. It will show a box like this. If you don't get a box like this, make sure whether you have give this correct password, give the correct username or not. I hope you will get a successful my SQL connection was made. Just say okay and now click on okay. Okay, now let's get into this. Okay, we have our workbench ready and we have our Hamid DB. Okay, let's get into this. Here you can see we have our tables and some other extra stuff. In this video we are not going to focus on this view stored procedures, just we are going to focus on only tables, guys. Okay, without any further say, let's get into what, let's learn Sequelize. For getting into Sequelize, I am going to create node application, because basically we are going to connect our backend application with our database, right? So let me first create a node application. For that, let me open my terminal, and you can go to the directory which you like. I'm going to, in my documents, there I have a folder called node. There I'm going to create another one folder. For that I'm going to say make dir, and I'm going to name my folder as SQL. It really doesn't matter what you name your directory. Let me say hit enter. Let's get into that particular directory. Okay, now let's initiate our node application. It is very simple. I hope you guys are already familiar with creating a node application. For that you have to say npm init. It will create a node application for that. Okay, here you can see it will create a node application for us. It does take some time. It depends upon your computer speed. Here you can see we successfully created a node application. Why I specified a why means because if we simply do npm init, it will ask will for like whether it is yes or no, yes or no. So that's why I specified why. It means it takes everything as yes, so that's why I specified why over there. We successfully created or initiated a node application. Now here you can see the main path is index.js. So that's why let me first create a file with a name called index.js. For creating a file you have to say touch index dot, you have to say touch and name the file index.js. Now we have to install our framework, our ORM, and we have to install our database. So just make sure to install the things which I am going to install. First of all, install a framework. In our case I am going to use Express framework, which is simplistic one. After that you have to install the ORM. In our case we are going to learn this super cool Sequelize ORM. Just get down here. Here you can see, just say Sequelize here, not SQLize, it pronounced as Sequelize. Okay, here they are using, where is it, SQLite 3, but we are going to use what, MySQL database, right? Because we have made a user in the MySQL, so that's why we have to use MySQL. So let's install MySQL version 2. You should not install version 1 because it doesn't support version 1. So say MySQL 2. After that I am going to use body parser. Don't worry guys, we are not going to create any front-end application, but we are going to use the tool Postman, right? We are going to get the data from the body of the Postman, body of the form. So that's why I'm going to install body parser. Okay, just say hit enter. It will install every single thing which you have specified over here. It does take some time. While it is installing, I am going to install another one thing which is development dependency. I hope you guys have guessed it, which is Nodemon, because I don't want to keep rescheduling or rerunning my server. Nodemon, okay, it will install our development dependency too. Okay, okay, it says found zero vulnerabilities. It means we successfully installed these 4 packages. Let's get into code editor. Here I'm going to use as usually Visual Studio Code. Just say code space and a dot. It will take you to the Visual Studio Code directly from terminal to the VS Code. You don't have to manually open VS Code by clicking on that icon. Here you can see guys, it opens Visual Studio Code for us. Now let me close the terminal. Okay, here after we don't need this, but here we didn't get our development dependencies, like we didn't get our express framework and Sequelize, so that's why I'm going to reinstall it, like npm install express. After that we need what we need Sequelize, just paste it. After that we need MySql 2. Make sure to install MySql 2 guys, otherwise it really end up with missing what happened. So that's why make sure to install MySql 2. Don't install MySql 1. After that body parser, because we are going to get the data, right? Okay, it will install once again. I don't know why it didn't install in the previous command. What went wrong, I don't know. Okay, let me reinstall it. It really doesn't matter, it doesn't take that much amount of time. Okay, while it is installing, here you can see we get our dependency. We get our 4 dependency which we are going to use now. Okay guys, now let's first run our server. Okay, for running our server you have to what is that, you have to import your express. For that, let me say require express. Okay, we successfully imported our express. I am going to create an instance of the express framework, which is basically the app, right? For that you have to say const app. Okay, let's say express. Okay, with that done, let's import our body parser. Okay, let's say require body parser. Okay, now let's import our Sequelize, which is our ORM, right? Sequelize, I hope this is the correct spelling. Require, just say Sequelize here. Here you can see guys, we successfully imported every single thing which we need. Here you can see we didn't import MySql 2 because we don't have to specify manually anywhere in the code, but we should install MySql 2. Okay, we successfully imported the things which we want. Now let's define a port number. Okay, let's name the port number as 5000. You can change or you can say 8000, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to say 7000. You can set the port number which you wish. Now let's run our server app dot listen on the port which is 7000 in my case. Okay, it will just take a callback. Okay, just do a simple console log whether my application is running correctly or not. Let me say server starts at http//localhost. After that, let's define our port here, not post, port here. Okay, okay guys, now let's run our server. For running our server, just open your terminal and just click on the plus icon. Okay, here we already installed our development dependency, right? So that's why we can use of that. For that, let me say npx nodemo. Here we have to specify the main path which is index.js in our case. Okay, it will starts our server. Okay, while it is starting our server, let me do a get request, a simple get request app.get. Okay, which is going to be home route. Okay, this also be a simple thing. Okay, it this callback takes request and then a response. I hope you guys are very familiar with this, writing the APIs. Okay, let's say send. It's going to be super simple. This is working fine. Okay, now let's save this file and check whether it has any error or not. Here you can see guys, it doesn't have any error. Now let's get back to the browser and check whether it is perfectly working or not. For that, why I have to go for a browser. Let me say in the postman. Okay, it's going to be a get request. It's the home route of not 5000 port, it is port number 7000. Let's say send. Here we have to get, this is working fine. Oh no, this is taking longer time, I don't know. Okay, here you can see we are getting this is working fine perfectly. It means our server doesn't contain any error. Okay, now let's configure our body parser. Okay, for that you have to say app.use body parser dot json. Okay, after that app.use body parser dot URL encoded, because we are going to get the data in the body in the URL form, URL encoded. So that's why we have to specify URL encoded. Then it is taking a param which is basically extended is set to be false. Okay, we successfully configure our body parser. Now let's get into the Sequelize part, which is, now let's first connect our backend application with our database. For connecting our application, you have to say const Sequelize. Here you can see I am using small letters. Here you can see I am using small letters. In the fourth line, the S in the forms of caps. Here just make the difference, otherwise in the end you are gonna confuse by yourself. So that's why make sure in the fourth line the S is in the format of caps, and in the 10th line the S is in the format of small. Okay, now let me say new Sequelize. After that we have to specify our database. After that we have to specify the user. After that we have to specify the password for that particular user. First of all, let's specify the database. In our case we created the database which is db, not dbd, which is db. After that the user is the same HAMEED. After that the password is HAMEED at 123, not 1123. Okay, after that it finally takes a argument like a dialect. It is an optional one guys, but make sure to add this, otherwise you will not get error, but it is highly recommend to do this. Okay, we successfully connected. Now let's check whether we have connected our application with backend server or not. For that you have to say Sequelize. There is a method called authenticate. Okay, after that it returns a response. If it is success response, we will we will catch it in the then block. If it is failure response, we will catch it in the catch block. Okay, now let's handle the success response. If it is success response, we will catch it in the then block, right? There we have to say, just say console.log. It has no error. Just say connection made successfully. Successfully. If it is failure response, just say error. Just console log that error. Just say this has have error. Okay, now let's run our application. If it has any error, it will show us the error, but luckily we don't have any error. Here you can see we are getting executing default, we are getting a query. It means we successfully connected our application with our database. Here you can see the connection made successfully, we don't have any error. Now we have to create tables. Okay guys, till this point we successfully installed our MySQL database, and we created a database user, and we created a database, and we created our backend application which is running successfully, and we successfully connected our backend server with our database. Till this point, this is what we have done. Now um, and I have to mention this point, we connected our database with our backend server by using this word, by using this ORM. This is what we have done till now. Now we have to create, now we have to work on the Sequelize. Now we have to create tables, right? Without creating tables, how we can save data in the MySQL database? So first of all, we have to create tables. But how? We are not going to write any queries. There is a method which is responsible for creating tables in the Sequelize ORM. Okay, now let's first create the table by using that particular method, which is going to be super simple guys. Let's first create the table. Okay, let me say cons. mm, Here I'm going to name the table as db table. You can name whatever you wish, which is basically a table, or let me name as blog table, because we are going to save only two data, one is title and a description. So let me name it as the table as blog table. Okay, you can name whatever you wish, but it really doesn't matter. Now just listen carefully. We are going to create table. For creating table, as I said before, there is a method, right? For that you have to say Sequelize. Here you can see I am using the Sequelize s in the format of small, which is in the 10th line. There is a method called define. Okay, just this method is responsible for creating table. Now we have to name our table, right? Let's say blog table. Okay, after that, here we have to specify which are the data, what are the data we are going to save in the database. For that I have to say title, and this is the first data which we are going to save in the database, which is in the format of string. Okay, string. After that I am going to save a description, a small description, which is also in the format of string, but not as string, which is in the format of text, I think so. Okay, that's it guys, we successfully created a table. Here you can see we have just used this method, we have just used this method called define. This is the method which is responsible for creating the tables. After that, thirdly, it takes another one parameter which is optional, you don't have to specify it manually, but I am going to specify it, which is basically the table name, I think so. Here I am going to set the table name as blog table. Otherwise, if I didn't specify the table name, it will name the table as block tables. So in order to prevent from block tables, just name it as block table. So that's why I specified the table name over here. Just this is the method guys for creating a table. That's it, we successfully created a table, but still now we didn't create any table. See here, we just getting the executing query. We didn't get the query of table created. For creating a table, we have to say manually like this. Just run this command, avoid blog model, sorry, blog table. This is the thing which is responsible for creating the table, right? We have to use a method sync, I think so, and this take a parameter like force is going to be true. Okay, why it is in the format of string. Okay, that's it, I think so. Now let's check whether it has any error or not. Why it is only valid, I think we should not do like this. Okay, now let's check whether it has any error or not. Here you can see, guys, we initially get what is that executing array, which is basically for connecting our database with our MySQL with our backend server. After that, we get a query of create table. Here you can see we successfully get the query. It means we successfully created a table. Now let's get back into the MySQL workbench and check whether we have our table or not. Okay, let's jump over to the MySQL workbench. Just click on the refresh icon. Here you can see we get a arrow mark. It means we created a table. Okay, here you can see our table name is block table. Okay, I think we don't have any data right now because till now we didn't upload or post any kind of data. Now let's jump into the four logics, which is CRUD, update, uh, create, read, update and delete. Till this point we successfully connected our backend server with our database and successfully created a table. Now let's post some data in the table. Okay, just get below. I'm going to get the data from the front end, which is basically by using what postman. It does take as usually request after a response. Okay, now let's get the title const title title from the body request dot body dot title. Okay, now let's get our description. Okay, which is going to be super simple request dot body dot. Okay, desc. Okay, now this point we have to save our data. For that we have to say const save block, whatever you name, it really doesn't matter, just say const save block. Now here we have to use this sequelize once again, not this sequelize. Now we have to use this table because at last we are going to save data in the table, right? For that we have to specify our table name, which is block table. In our case there is a method for saving data which is build, which is going to build our data but not going to save the data, just for creating the data. For that we have to say build. Okay, it does take as usually the table content is title and description, right? Let me say the title and description. Okay, here I am using the ES6 format, guys. I don't have to specify like this. The ES6 takes care of everything, right? So that's why we don't have to specify like that. Just leave it as it is. Now we have to save this data. Okay, before that, remember we are dealing with a third party application. Whenever we deal with any third party application in Node.js, we have to handle it properly because it does take some time. It does take some time and written promise. So that's why we have to say async await. Because remember, whenever you are connecting or whenever you are dealing with a third party application, you have to wait for some time, but JavaScript waits for none. So that's why we have to specify async await. Just say save block and the method which is save. The build method is just for creating the data, and the save method which actually saves the data in the table. Okay, that's it, guys. Now let's just send a response, a simple response. Okay, data's posted successfully. Data posted. That's it. Keep it as simple as possible. Okay, we successfully running our application and we don't get any error. Now let's get back to the what postman. Here you can see I am in the postman, and let's say post request in the same URL, in the same home route. Here you can see, which is our port number is 7000 here. Here you can see already have our title, which is not title, sorry, testing once again, which is basically testing, and description, this is description, testing data. Okay, now we have to say send. I hope we will get the success response, which is data posted. Here you can see we get the success response. Now let's get back into the MySQL workbench and let's see whether we successfully posted our data or not. Okay, now let's jump into MySQL workbench and just refresh it. Just click on the refresh icon. Now let's write a simple query to get every single data which is in that particular table. For that you have to specify the current database, which is Hamid DB over here. Okay, after specifying the database, now write the simple logic for getting every single data, right? Select everything. This star basically stands for everything from the data table name, right? You have to specify the table name. Initially we set up our database name, after that we have to say our table name here, right? Okay, table name. Now let's run it. Okay, here you can see this is the thunder icon which is used to run this. Here you can see guys, we get our data which is id is 1 and testing. This is the data which I posted here and the testing data. Okay guys, now we are done with our post logic. Now let's write our read logic, which is basically getting all the data. It is going to be super simple guys. For that you have to say app dot get, which is going to be the get in the home route, right? Just we have to specify the request as usually the response. This is going to be a one line code guys. Just say const all data. Just say we have to specify the block model name, right? Table name, not model name, right? We have to specify the table name. In our case our table name is block table. Here you can see we specified block table and there is a method for building the data and there is a method for saving the data. Likewise there is a method for getting all the data, which is simply find all method. It is going to be super simple. When I write you will get to understand. Here you can see I specified the table name and there is a method called find all. That's it. Now we have to handle the asynchronous, right? Async await, because whenever we are connecting with the third party application it will take some time, right? So that's why I have to say async await. Just say rest dot json, because we are sending the data, right? We are sending every single data, so that's why I am saying json. Here you can say send, it really doesn't matter. So let me say json and all the data. That's it. This is the simple method which does take care of getting every single data in the database. Here you can see we don't have any error. Now let's get back to the postman and just say get request in the port number, I think so 7000. This is what we have specified here, right? Yes, this is 7000. Let's say send. Here we have to get a single data. What went wrong? Okay, let's do the post method whether we successfully saved the data or not. Okay, let's first say title, and this time we are going to create a new data, right? For that let me say second sec data. Next we need a description, right? As usually let's say something here, something. Okay, it really doesn't matter, just say post. Here you can see we successfully get data posted. Now let's run this once again. Here you can see guys, we have only one data, but actually we should have two data, right? Let's refresh this. Okay, let's rerun this command. Here you can see we have only one data, but I don't know why it got deleted, the data one which we saved. Let's once again refresh this. Okay, I think we have to auto increment the id number, right? So that's why it gets automatically deleted, I think so. Let's automatically specify the id number. Let's first specify the id. Okay, type Sequelize dot integer. This time it should be integer. Okay, integer. After that we have a param called auto increment, I think so. Auto increment, just say true over here. Okay, just save the data auto increment, but why it gave the error? Because I forgot to specify a comma over there. Now just save this and check whether we have any error or not. Okay, we have to specify primary key is also true over there. Just copy this one. Okay, now let's say here true. Okay, we just want to delete this extra quotation. Now save this and we should not have any error once again. Okay, now let's get back to the browser and post another one data sec data 2 and something 2. Just say send. Oh, not like this, just say post over here, and we have to say the get request to get the all the data, I think so. Here you can see, but I don't know why it is not showing the data. Okay, let's refresh this once again. Okay guys, wait a minute, I will tell you why it is doing like this. Okay guys, I found where the error is, because here you can see I have specified force is true. It means every time when you rerun this application, it deletes every single data in the database and creates the database newly. So that's why you should not do force is equal to true. You should do it only once when you run the application for a first time. Otherwise you don't have to specify every time when you run the data. Just save this time. You should not give any error, I think so. Here you can see guys, we successfully connected our database with our application, sorry, with our application, and after that we successfully created a table. This point we don't even need this IDs. Just MySQL automatically takes care of it. Just delete this and save this file. Okay, now let's rerun this once again. Just say post data. Oh, we have to say post data posted for first time, and do once again for second time. Here we have posted the data twice. Now let's jump into the MySQL workbench and check. Here you can see in the terminal we have two times executing command. It means we successfully created data, we successfully posted data two times. This time we should get two data in the workbench. Now let's refresh this. Just click on the refresh icon, click on the thunder icon. Here you can see we have three times the data. So please make sure to undo the force is equal force true. Otherwise every time, every single time we when you rerun the application, it creates a new database. It deletes everything in the database and creates newly. So make sure to undo the force true. Okay, but please make sure to run this command, which is sync. Otherwise your backend application never gonna connect. Not never gonna connect, not never gonna make a table by using that method. So use sync method and don't use force. Every time you use a force, what will happen? It will create, it will generate, or it will delete every data in the database and it creates newly. So that's why just undo the force. Now let's say get request. Now we have to get how many datas? Yes, you are correct, three datas. Here you can see id1, id2, id3. That's it. Now we are done with our get method and our post method, which is create and read method. Now let's handle the update method. Okay guys, as usually we have to deal with post method. App.put for updating the query, right? Now it takes the path as dynamically, right? I hope you guys are very familiar with dynamic routing. You have to say like this id. Now as usually we have to maintain request, after that a response. Now initially we have to get the data, right? Which data is going to be updated. Okay, now let's get the data. Let's say request dot body dot data. Okay, now we have a data. Now let's update description. We don't want to update title. Now let's update the description. Okay, for that we have to say there is a simple method, right? Not build blog dot table. Here you can see the method for getting all data is dot find all, and the method for creating data is build method, and the method for saving data is dot save, and the method for for updating data is simple update. Okay, it takes first of all the id which is going to be updated, and let's say our id is in the param request dot params dot id. Okay, now we have to, no, the method doesn't gonna like this. First of all, we have to specify the what, we have to specify the data which is going to be updated. In this case, what the data is updated? Description, right? Description. Just update the description to the current data. Okay, now we have to use something cool, which is which data is going to be updated, right? In the query you have read like where, you have the here the term, right? Where, we have to use the where keyword. Where, okay, id is gonna be the request dot param dot id. Okay, that's it. Here you can see, guys, just we are on the dynamic path, just taking the id, and we are updating that description to the current newly given data. That's it. The method which is going to help us to update is update method. In the update method, we have two parameters. One is the object number one, which is the current data which is going to be updated, and second one is the condition which data is, which data wants to be updated. And the condition here goes like this, where which id is current given, which id is same as the current given id, just update the description. That's it. Okay, now let's say one here, just update the first one, just say something 3 to something 1. Oh, here I have to handle the response, right? Rest dot redirect to the home route, nothing more fancy, just redirect to the home page. And our home page get request is just displaying every single data. Here you will understand clearly. Here you can see I am saying post here, and we should not say title description. Here we need what, we need data. Okay, you have to say something something one, just say send. Here it will update. Here you can see, oh, what went wrong, it doesn't update, means I have done a mistake somewhere else in the code, right? Okay, xrl in your inform encoded, just say send once again. Here you can see, guys, it updates the data. Here you can see, now it perfectly updates the data. Here you can see which is our dynamic path is 1, which is basically the id number is 1. We successfully give the data as something 1. After that, the description has changed from something 3. Here you can see remaining 2 and 3 date description is something 3, but the description of id 1 is changed to something 1. It means we can successfully update the data which is saved in the MySQL database. If you don't believe me, now let's get back to the MySQL database. Just refresh it and click on the thunder icon. Here you can see we successfully updated every single thing. Here you can see updated at, it gives the time when we update it. Okay, that's it, guys. Now let's handle the delete request. Nothing more fancy, just copy this put. Instead of put, we have to say delete. As usually it takes the what, the dynamic path id. Okay, as usually it takes the dynamic id. Now here we are not going to update the data, so that's why I removed the data part. We don't even need this. Here we have to use destroy method. Destroy. Okay, that's it. Okay, now let's get back to the postman and check whether it works perfectly fine or not. Okay, now let's say just delete the first one. Here instead of put request, what we have to give, we have to give delete request. Okay, say once again sin, I don't know why it is taking I don't know why I'm doing 2 times. Somewhere in the code I miss something else. I will update why I upload this code in GitHub, so don't worry, guys. You should not click twice on the send button. It must give whenever you click one time, but I don't know where I wrongly typed in my code or where I mess up with my code. Don't worry guys, I will change my code and update in the GitHub. You can copy the code from that, so don't worry, just follow with me and learn the basic concepts. Okay, here you can see we successfully deleted that id number 1. Okay, let me say 2 to delete it. Okay, okay, say once again, here you can see we successfully deleted the data with id number 2. If you don't believe me, just get back into the workbench and just say thunder icon. Here you can see we successfully deleted the id 1 and id 2. That's it guys. Okay, I hope you guys have learned something. Just it is a simple thing guys. In this video we have learned how to create a database user, how to create a database by using MySQL community server, which we did in the earlier part of the video, right, by using that terminal. After that we connected our front end up, sorry, not front end, back end application with our database, which is basically MySQL data. After that we use our Sequelize ORM. Instead of writing queries, we do JavaScript objects. We want our JavaScript object to do all this stuff by to do all the stuff which a query can do. Okay, these are the methods which we covered. First method is define to create a table. Another one is dot authenticate to check whether we successfully made a connection with our database or not. After that post method we have dot build to create the data. After that dot save to post the data, sorry, to save the data. After that update method to update the particular data with we have to specify the var keyword. The var keyword is responsible in SQL database to update something or to delete something, and destroy method for deleting, and find all method for getting all the data. That's it guys. This is the simple video which I want to share with you all. If you want a deep dive into it, just go to many articles and learn what you want. Okay guys, if you have learned something new and if you have enjoyed this video, just on the red color button which is below, which is subscribe button. Thank you for watching.